Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about removing some of the plastic backing, the really hard plastic backing from any patches you want to put on a jersey. Generally, it seems like National Emblem kind of stopped doing this, so it's more for these patches, probably until around 2010 or so, that you have the more of a landscape type packaging that they were put in, as compared to these newer ones that are more of a portrait style. These ones tend to not have this backing. There is a really thin film on the back, but these ones are much more pliable. So really it's these type right here, 2008, 2009, maybe 2010. I'm sure maybe there's for other sports, if you have patches you're going to put on a jersey or whatever, different companies maybe might do that as well. So what I have here is a 2008 patch, and usually the way these come, there's some sort of like plastic film that they're put in, and then these are just glued down really quick just to this piece of cardboard just for resale in a store or whatever. So really I'm just pulling this off the little card that it's glued onto, and I'm gonna try, there's a little bit of glue here that you can see. I'm just gonna try and pull that off first. So as you can kind of see in the background here, what we have in order to do this removal are a couple of tools on the counter. First and foremost, I got just a little saucepan that I filled with water, and I'm bringing that up to a boil. We'll use that in a minute. What I also have is a towel sitting on the counter, a pair of metal tongs, a pair of needle nose pliers, and then an X-Acto knife. Really all we're going to do is take this, we're going to make a little slice in the back of the plastic, the hard plastic backing, with the X-Acto knife, just to give it a spot that really we can just kind of bend around. Then once we boil it, we're going to take it out of the water. We're going to use the tongs to hold it because it's going to be freaking hot, and then the pliers will be good just to get a good grip and just pull this backing right off. So I actually learned this technique from the Ice Jerseys forum from Jeff B. That was quite a while he posted this, so I cannot take credit for this. But okay, so now I've gotten the card separate from, or the jersey patch separate from the card. So the ones really that you're worried about are the ones that have this little warning label on it. And it just says, this is officially licensed by NHL. It's made by National Emblem. And as Jeff points out in his Ice Jerseys post originally, we can laugh at this little warning down here below that attaching these patches to any jerseys are going to ruin their value, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, so like I said, I've already got my pot boiling. I'm going to zoom in here for a second just to show you what I'm going to do with the X-Acto knife, and then generally boil the patch in the water for about 5 or 10 minutes, just straight into the water. Not really going to mess around with it too much. Like I said, come back in about 10 minutes and we'll pull it out and keep going from there. Alright, so yet again, I'm just going to use the X-Acto knife here, but just to zoom in really quick. So this is the back of the patch that we're worried about. It's got this really thick, hard backing, like I mentioned before. I didn't actually show you, like, it's actually pretty thick. It's not very pliable whatsoever. It's pretty hard to move around with, which is the reason why we'd want to take this off so you can put it on a jersey, and it's not going to mess up just the way that it sits on the jersey itself, make the jersey really thick and hard to mess around with. As compared to, this is some of the newer age patches that they've started selling. It doesn't have that label on the back. They're they've still got a little bit of a glue backing here, or plastic or something, that's really thin, and it's more, I think, just to keep all of the embroidery together. Quite honestly, what you can do with these newer ones that have that really thin backing, you could sew it straight onto the jersey. It's probably fine. If you want to get rid of this also, I'll show you in a couple of minutes. Actually, what you can even just do, I've done on a couple, is just use the tongs and just hold it over top of the steam from the pot, not even putting it in, and it pretty much just kind of, the heat just kind of evaporates it right away. So that's one thing you could do with these newer ones if you really wanted to get that backing away, but Obviously, for right now, we just want to take a look at using the X-Acto knife and cutting a little shape here across. Probably an X is fine. I try to find the highest points that are kind of off in the odd little sections. Make sure that we get a slice there. So maybe probably slice here across, here down, and then maybe here across again. So that's going to give us a lot of attachments points to pull from once we get this out of the water. So you're going to need to push in a little bit, but don't push too much because obviously you don't want to cut the patch itself, and these are hard. So you probably need to give it a little bit of muscle, again, without getting too far in through and cutting the patch. That was a pretty good one. And that should be good. There we go. So now you can see what you can do is actually kind of start bending this a little bit, just so that it really starts to open up that backing a little bit. You might hear it crack a bit, and that's fine. That's just going to loosen it up, so it's just going to make it a little bit easier once this gets in there. And the water does its trick to really melt it away. Might want to make another little cut there. Otherwise, I think we're pretty good. Perfect. So there we go. A little bit of a slice all the way around. So from here, all I'm going to do is drop it right into the water, and then we'll be back in about 10 minutes and we'll rip that all apart. So before I throw this in, actually what I was mentioning a minute ago about these newer patches with the really thin plastic backing, really all I'm going to do is just take the tongs, hold this directly over the water like this, and just, I'm not going to do it to this patch, but literally just hold it right over, maybe within this range here, a couple of inches above the water. You'll be able to tell if it's going to start working. It'll be kind of warm to the touch, and then it'll just literally just start melting that away. Might not be a bad idea to have like maybe the vent fan over your stove on to do this, but you just keep holding it over and just do it until you're happy with it. That's what I've done for the newer patches with the thinner backing. For this harder one, just take it literally and just pop it right in. And I'm really not going to touch it. I don't really think you need to worry about the metal or the plastic backing of the patch kind of, you know, melting onto the bottom. The bubbles are going to keep it floating on the top of the water there. So give it about 10 minutes and I'll be back. You might even be okay with after about 5. What you could do is just kind of lift it up and see what it looks like. And honestly, this is pretty nice and warm. I might not even need to wait that long, but 5 or 10 minutes just to be safe. You might find if you don't leave it in long enough, the backing will start hardening up again and it won't kind of quite rip off nice and clean. So might have to do it again, but we'll be back in about 5 minutes or so. Alright, so like I said, honestly, I don't know if it's just because the heat here is turned up so high. This hasn't even been on for me for more than 2 or 3 minutes, and it's already, if I pull it out here, it's starting to pull away from the patch itself in this particular spot. So I think once you see it start bubbling up a little bit, probably good to give it a go. I got a towel here just so that I can work directly on the towel so I don't get water everywhere, but I'm just going to take it out like that, and then I'm just going to hold on the one corner with the tongs and then use my pliers to just start pulling away. and it really should come apart pretty easily. If I didn't make great cuts all the way around, it might be kind of hard to pull apart at the end there, but that was pretty simple. And again, just grab each of the corners, pull it right off, and it should come off really easily. And the nice thing about this, there we go. The nice thing about this is it comes off nice and clean. It doesn't really leave much residue. Turn that off because we're good. I don't even need to take another round at it. Backing's off nice and clean. This is nice and flexible now. It's pretty much ready. The only thing you might want to do is there might be a little bit of paper left over from that national emblem logo underneath. You might just want to pick that off a little bit before you let it dry. But for the most part, that's it. All I do from this point is take this, let it sit out somewhere, maybe get a couple of layers of paper towel, or even just normal towels are fine, just so it doesn't, if you leave it on a wood top or something, it doesn't transfer any of the water over to the wood. But what I like to do is set it out overnight, get a good heavy stack of books, put it right on top, and give it a lot of weight, because as you can kind of see here already, even being in the water, it did kind of disfigure it temporarily just because it's wet. But giving it that weight to kind of flatten it out overnight, I've not had a problem yet. It's all good to go. And then here is a different patch that I've already done this whole step to. As you can see, once it dries out, it looks perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with it. The heat didn't damage it at all. And it's nice and clean here. I'll let this take a second to kind of focus in. So ran out of memory card space, but again, you can see it's nice and clean. There's nothing wrong with the patch itself, and it's good to go. Once it dries out, it's perfect, just like it was the day I got it in the packaging. The only difference now is I got rid of that plastic backing. It's much more pliable. It's going to be put on a jersey, and it's not going to be nearly as hard. Because with that hard plastic backing, there's no way you're ever going to get through that backing with the sewing machine. Unlike at least the newer ones with the thinner backing, you can sew through those. I like I said, to use the steam from the pot, the boiling pot, just to kind of melt that away as I wave it over the water. But that's just a personal preference. Just kind of helping prevent maybe any future glue almost fusing to the jersey itself. I have seen some really old patches or letters that I've stripped off of a jersey that have actually, over time, even though they weren't hard heat pressed down, the glue was actually fusing to the jersey because the seam, the stitching was so tight, and that was a real pain to get off. So just for any future use, like I've said in previous videos, I don't plan on stripping my jerseys again now that they're done, but in the event that would ever need to be done, or I would want to do it to somebody else if I would sell the jersey, it's just kind of removing that whole element of any kind of glue, hopefully attaching to the fabric of the jersey itself. So that's it for this, guys. Thanks.